Podcast. Today I forgot your name.
Charlie.
That's a good start. Charlie, who's been on the Charlie. Right, you actually got the same surname as me, as my first name. I shouldn't have said that, but anyway. So welcome to today's podcast. Thank you for coming forward and offering your support through doing these videos. I've had such engagement with the other ones I've done, and people are just all coming forward and recommending how good they've been, so I thought I'd do some more. So I did go quiet for a bit. So guys, welcome, and if you're not already subscribed to this channel, please click the subscribe button. So I'll let Charlie introduce herself, give you a bit of a background as to where her life's been and where she is now. What I'll do, Charlie, for when you're speaking, I'll probably interrupt you through things and just get you to elaborate into things and ask questions about what you say, because I know what the audience ask, and then that just gives an understanding then to them. And also I'll just forget if I don't interrupt you, so I do apologise now. Go ahead, mate.
I'm Charlie. I'm from Leeds. I was in addiction from 15 years old, heroin and crack. I was on ease and all that beforehand, but yeah, I'm 22 months clean, longest ever in my life. I went to rehab and it changed my life. I went to Littledale rehab and it changed my life. And
So
now
go on.
I've gone from being prolific offender to basically being on Sky News the other week.
What for?
Talking about probation, addiction, and recovery.
Wow.
And how you can help more people in addiction, in probation. And this afternoon I'm talking about all that, this afternoon I'm talking to all heads of probation.
Bloody hell, yeah, that's what I mean. You'd like to just take a complete...
And I did a documentary with a Gender Alliance, and through that I've been asked to join the Women's Network Committee to try and help more women with domestic violence and addiction and that.
Oh, well done to you, man. You should be so proud of yourself.
It's just mental health. My life has just totally changed. In fact, I'll send you some pictures over of me in addiction.
Yeah, do that.
2023, I was months off dying.
Would you really?
But my addiction started to heroin and crack when I was like 15. Nowadays it'd be called grooming. I had a 28-year-old man picking me up from school. He'd stolen cars. He were a bad boy, when really he wasn't.
No.
Do you know what I mean? But because everyone were impressed by it at school, it made me think I had an older man and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he got me involved with pinching cars. My first arrest was for a ram raid, and I got 12 months for that.
Where was that? Is that in Leeds?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
On South Parade for the old 486 computers. And it was mad because I was 18 and I married him. I married him on the Tuesday, and I was on remand bike following Monday.
Fuck's sake! No honeymoon then. The honeymoon was in fucking where's women's jails in Wakefield, isn't it?
Yeah. That was my local. And my life just spiraled from there really into addiction, and I was in and out of prison and stuff. And then in 1996, I'd only been married 9 months. I met my partner of 28 years, Evo, and he basically, because Dave used to be so violent with me, I mean, that man tortured me, had hammers in heads and all sorts, he used to smother me and stuff and do horrific things to me anyway. I met Evo, and I never went home.
Right.
And I was with him till he died.
Yeah.
And in late 90s, early 2000s, heavily involved with growing weed and stuff.
How did he die from drug addiction?
He died on my methadone, and how I ended up coming to rehab was I was up in Crown Court. What had happened was he'd gone yellow, because last 10 years of us being together, he started drinking.
Right.
And he'd gone yellow, and he wouldn't go to hospital.
Right.
And then he says to me, right, after days and days of trying to get him to go to hospital, he says, right, go get your meth, because you know what they're like at hospital. And I was that much controlled, and I'd have done whatever he said.
Yeah.
He was never violent, but he was a good manipulator, and that, you know what I mean?
Sometimes that's worse than mental manipulation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sometimes he'd have me bumming, rocking in the car and punching myself in the head.
That's what I mean, because like the bruises physically, they heal and they go away. We forget about that. But up here, when we're mentally abused, it lives with us forever. And I know that because I've been through relationships like that myself.
Yeah, but I've never loved anyone so much in my life.
Oh.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
And to get him to hospital, I went and got my meth, and then it were, just go get some gear, and I went, Dad, get me some pre-gabs.
Yeah.
So I've gone toddling, I've come back, and it was that poorly. I'd been and asked a friend to sit with him while I were going off and scoring. And he'd had one bottle of meth, because I went to the chemist first. He had one bottle of meth. I didn't know when I went off to go score, he'd had another bottle of meth. So he'd had like 180 ml of meth. And then of course, he'd had some gear. I'll never forget, I was there and I was smoking a pipe, and I just looked over at him and he was gone. But I didn't know he'd drunk another bottle of meth.
Right.
And it collapsed. And my iPhone had broken. I could only text. So I had to go ask next door neighbour. And I put the dog away, because I had pit bulls and that, with, obviously, things I got up to, you know.
Yeah.
And I put the dog away, and the lad that was there in the house, for some reason, when the next door neighbour ran in with his phone, let the dog out. Well, the dog just jumped straight over me and Evo and grabbed him by hip and got him to the floor and was savage. So I had to get the dog off, put him. This is all in the middle of giving him mouth to mouth.
Right.
Put the dog back. He'd gone off. Then he'd gone off with phone, and I had given him mouth to mouth. Ambulance was pulled up. Ambulance won't come till police come for the dog. So the ambulance was sat outside for 17 minutes, and he passed away.
This is quite recently.
2023.
Yeah, so it's the last couple of years. So presumably at this point now, is this where you sort of wanted to change your life, do you talk about?
Well, no, I didn't even want to change it. And then I just wanted to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was taking that many drugs.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I didn't care whatsoever. The only thing I cared about was my dog. And she was called Hope, my dog, because there's a story behind this a bit further on. And I was just getting off my face. And then I was up in Crown Court for my first appearance. And the judge happened to say, has this woman ever been to rehab? So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm looking at 6 years. They're telling me. I went, no, I've never been to rehab. I'll go to rehab. Why? And I had to go to these groups, and they had women that worked with me from Joanna Project. And this poor worker that used to come, and she used to have to come to trap houses and that, and bang on the door to get me, and take me to these meetings. Or it'd be, just hang on a minute, I just need to give this guy his money back. I'm just going to get changed. You know, it'd be one, and I'd come out in the same clothes, but I'd be all right. But then, because Evo used to get me, I used to inject, and Evo used to get me, so I was really struggling. And one day I was in this bath, trying to get myself claret all over, works all over, and I thought, God, please just let me get myself. You know, yeah. I was that broken. Yeah. And then that's the day that I thought, I'm going to give this a go. And even when I went to rehab, and I love Little Dale, I volunteer there now. Do you know what I mean? even when I went to rehab at first, I was so negative, and I didn't think I could change, and I'll be there. These people can't change me.
Yeah,
I've been at this 32 years. I don't know anything else.
Yeah, I know that
Do you know what I
mentality
mean?
as well.
It's one of them.
Yeah.
And then gradually, as I went through my treatment, little things started going click, and I can remember, like, because I've been in such an environment where you didn't tell on people, you didn't grasp people up, and all of a sudden you're telling me how to grasp people up for the behaviours. You're mad. You know what I mean? I ain't doing that. And it was when one of the first turning points, I think, in my treatment was when we used to share a room, and the girl that I shared a room with, that were taking other people's stuff, that were vaping and that I kept my mouth shut about, because I wasn't going to point any behaviours. I wasn't going to grass her up for out, do you know what I mean? And she'd left rehab, and within an hour, she'd relapsed.
Bloody hell.
And I can remember, because you had to do slips and that, and I get it now. And that's when things started to change for me, and then I had to do some really hard work about my dad and that, because I was a daddy's girl, and my dad had another family and that when I was a kid. And, well, to put it in perspective, my parents split up on the Friday. I took my first drug on the Saturday.
Right, I see.
So it were big. My childhood were like, I never thought it had impacted me so much until I went to rehab.
No.
And I realised that because I saw my mum drink when my dad was cheating on her, that it was also some sort of learnt behaviour that...
That's how you deal with situations, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, and then I went through my treatment, and it's changed my life.
I can tell by the way you're talking. You look. I mean, I've never met you before, but you look well. You would never know you've had that history. So well
honestly, do you know, it's funny because on social media I had a store detective that nicked me in a certain high street shop, and he sent a picture of me, and I'm there in my nurse's uniform because it was just after COVID. So to keep shoplifting during COVID, I was wearing a nurse's uniform.
Oh, very clever.
I used to have to wear wigs and all sorts. You know, I wasn't doing well if I wasn't caught on camera.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Did you go on?
Go on, love.
Did you so do you think that, like, so how many times have you been to prison? Let me ask first. Have you got lots of prison sentences or not?
Yeah,
Lots.
I've got a lot. I've got 65 pages previous.
65 convictions, yeah?
No, 65 pages.
65 pages.
So I've done a fair bit.
So you would agree that obviously with drug taking becomes crime because it's so fucking expensive a life to live. And, you know, it's deprived you of most of your life.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
definitely.
for things, I mean, I know that as well, you know, like I've obviously only just been into recovery the last 18 months, and it's weird, isn't it? You like live a life, you're like, what the fuck? And I act in a way now, I'd think, did I just fucking say that? And I helped a lady off a bus a few weeks back, an old lady, and I could see a purse hanging out of her pocket. And I was thinking, my subconscious brain would tell me, grab it, innit? She would have never known. I helped her off the bus and helped her back with her shopping and give her a purse. And I thought, you fucking jammy bastard, you've changed.
Yeah, do you know when that happened to me on the train? Woman dropped a fiver, and I thought, and I went straight away, I went, yeah, love.
Yeah.
Back in there, that'd have been gone.
Have you done, did you do the 12 steps when you was in rehab?
No, I went to a community therapy.
Okay, so how does that work then? Do you want to just give me a bit of an understanding about that? Because I'm not really too sure how that works.
It's more of your peers that point out behaviours, and you point things out to them, and then the staff that direct you. Like, you'll do, you have certain groups. You start with belonging, so they want you to feel part of the belonging to the community.
Okay.
Then you'll go on to safety, which is really important, which is all about, like, the way you work in your addiction, the way your brain works, BS of it all. You know, you look at why you do the things you do, and we sat there and you think, oh yeah. But then you go into openness, and that's where you call it messy middle.
Yeah.
And that's where you start your counselling, you start your trauma, and you do some deep work on yourself. Like I had to do a letter to my dad, which I totally refused to do. And I wouldn't do it because it was my birthday in November. Then I wouldn't do it because it was Christmas. Then I wouldn't do it because it was New Year.
Yeah, we always find excuses, don't we? We always
do. Because I wanted to avoid and distract because I knew that was going to hurt.
Yeah.
And then they pulled me in office and said, right, we're going to discharge you from treatment, and unless you do this letter. So I did it, and ended up being 26 pages A4, both sides. And afterwards, after having all that fear and that anxiety about doing it, because believe it or not, I have chronic anxiety. If you'd have asked me to do this for you, I couldn't even open a brown envelope. Do you know what I mean?
Brown envelope.
I just, oh my God, there's a bill, I need a liquor crack to open it, you know?
Yeah.
That's the way I was.
Yeah.
And then when I actually did it, the relief I got from it, and I have to say, because I didn't engage in that stuff at first in rehab, then I felt the relief for actually doing it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I get it now. And I get why they say go to the pain.
Yeah.
And then after that, and I only had like 4 weeks left of my treatment, but the last 4 weeks of my treatment, I worked bloody hard, and I used to go to the pain at the top of my work. But it's like, I never realised, like, what a controlling relationship it was until I did the Freedom Project in there. Okay. And that's all about domestic violence and stuff. And actually sitting there and having to write up some of the things that happened with me and everyone, shit, I were in a coercive relationship.
So it sounds to me like you've been using drugs since a young age for coping mechanisms,
definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I understand that as well, and it sounds like, you know, you picked up an addiction in the means of all that that you probably I can probably guess that you didn't even like doing by the end of it. Fucking the feeling.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
Using against our will, aren't we? At the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. But after I had my counselling and stuff, and like the first time I went in counselling, I wouldn't even talk. No. Because I'd kept everything like, I used to say, the way it got explained to me was, you've locked stuff away in boxes. The trouble is now you're not taking drugs, then boxes are going to pop open. Yeah. And like, I can remember, like, randomly I would having a support chair with another peer. Randomly, and I can remember looking at the sign up wall and thinking, shit, I wonder whether being raped has actually affected me. And then that happened like when I was 17. Christ. And then randomly, that's all come out as well. Yeah. And the trauma group were really good because it explained like why my body reacted the way it did. It's like, when I got the first one in treatment, I used to go, my ears are ringing, I can't cope with thingy, I need to get away. And they used to let me go off until I calmed down and that, because, you know, that bad I was counting gravel to try and keep my mind somewhat sane. Because I've been on methadone 22 years. When I actually went to rehab, my biggest problem was not sleeping. Because in detox, I'd had 5 hours sleep in 9 days, and I'd had a meltdown, smashed my room, send me the fuck out of here, you know, and tried putting my hand through reinforced glass, punching the reinforced glass. When I went to rehab, all my hands were black, because I wasn't a nice person. I was aggressive, I was defensive, and these things, the way my life's changed now, it's like, I feel like me, it's your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
I'm very much like that now. It is what it is. But like the physical side of it as well, because I've always been so skinny in addiction, now that I'm a normal weight, my knees and my back can't take the weight because my body is like, got used to being skinny for so long.
Yeah.
So like now it's like, God, my knees are killing me. I'm too far. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, when I went in rehab, it's mad. It's like things go click in your head.
Yeah, they do.
But it's like I found out that my ears ringing wasn't because I was getting mad. It's because my cortisol levels were going up.
Yeah, yeah.
That fire, but I were very much avoiding distracts. But the sleeping really affected my treatment, because when I went to rehab, I still wasn't sleeping. And they drove a road protocol in detox to give me 40 milligrams of temazepam, because obviously I'd had this meltdown. Then when I got to got to rehab, I went for my nightmares. Nah, no nightmares here. So I went to detox on 27th. I went to detox on 3rd of September, went to rehab on the 27th of September, and I got my first night's sleep of 4.5 hours. And I know that because I read my own file. Now that I volunteer, I read my own file.
Wow.
And the first recorded, and it was 4.5 hours, and that were on, the 1st of December. So the sleep impacted, because I can't even remember really the beginning of my rehab apart from my meltdowns.
Which you wouldn't anyway, would you? You're probably in that thread,
No,
you know what I mean?
It was absolute torture. The not sleeping part, but by the end of it, do you know what I mean? I didn't want to leave.
Yeah, it seems like you've changed your life around completely, and it's evident.
Oh, definitely.
Do you believe that in recovery moving forward, is it something what you do? Do you connect with other addicts on a daily basis?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
When I left rehab, I went to Walt Lyons, and that is it was really strict supported housing. I had to write out on a planner what I was doing every day. I was breathalyzed every morning. I was randomly drug tested. If I stayed out overnight, I was drug tested. But I knew I had to go somewhere like that for the accountability.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I got through rehab and I managed to sort it, get through it, I couldn't ever go back to Leeds. And to put in perspective, my mum hates walking through Leeds town centre with me, because she says it's the who's who of the criminal underworld saying hello to me. And I knew, when I were in detox, because I were a cash cow, when I were in detox, I had people phoning me up, saying they'll bring me an eighth of each and take me away from detox. Oh, great. You want me out for Christmas because you know you get your Christmas shopping cheaper.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's more like it. But yeah, so I actually gave my sister my phone and got a new phone off my sister. My family have been really supportive, and one of the greatest gifts I've got from recovery is my family.
Family back, yeah.
It's like my sister's always been there. My sister, she'd turn up Christmas Day or Boxing Day with Christmas dinner, and I'd be there in some trap house, and somebody would go, "Charlie, your sister's outside." And I'd be like, "How the hell she found me? How does she know where I am?"
Oh.
Yeah. And she, like my sister, because she knows. Because my dad used to own pubs and nightclubs after he left. And my dad were a policeman, believe it or not. But after that, he owned...
Black Sheep,
yeah, my dad was a founder member at Leeds Drug Squad.
Christ.
Yeah. When my dad started, there were only 7 of them.
Really?
For the whole of Leeds, yeah.
Bloody hell.
But obviously, my dad owning pubs and nightclubs, you get links, don't you?
Yeah.
So my sister was always managed to track me down. And when my grandma got poorly, my sister turned up at the trap house. "Come on, you've got taking you." And how the hell have you found me in the middle of Chapeltown? Nobody knows where old man Yankee lives, you know.
Right in the ghetto.
So yeah, but the greatest, my have twin nieces and I have 2 step nieces, but and I'd never met my great niece and nephew till they were 7 and 6, and I met them at family day for Christmas at rehab for the first time.
Wow, I bet that was unbelievable.
And like the other week, I got trusted to look after her by myself, you know.
Yeah.
And like I'm looking after Morgan's kids by myself, and it's like, and then my sister says to me, "Can you stay at the house? We've got some builders coming in, and I need someone I can trust." And I got the text message, and I just burst out crying.
I know them kind of feelings. What you're talking about?
Wow, she trusts me. She wouldn't let me in her house for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
And now she trusts me to stay in her house. Like, you know.
Worried what you'd leave the house with in your pockets, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, and it's like, it's beautiful. My mum offered me a house key when I went down to my mum's. I went, no, don't want it. I'm not getting the blame for anything going wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want that. And keep your house key. But that's just the way my head thinks, you know what I mean? Because of my past, it's consequences of my past actions. But my family's been a big one. But after Walt Lyons, I moved into Phoenix Futures in Preston, and like I wouldn't even move out of Leeds because I knew my way round Leeds to get round Leeds, and like. Here I was going to move from Lancaster to Preston, a place that I didn't even know. And, like, first time I got somewhere with Google Maps, like, yeah, man, because I couldn't have done it before, do you know?
Yeah.
And it's like the little things that give me joy now, you know? It's the little things, and being with my family. But, I mean, I still go to meetings. I've just started. When I first came out of rehab, I didn't want to dive into my steps because of how hard I'd found rehab, and like I'd felt safe in rehab. I went to a rehab in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get off.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about rehab, but anyway. And last week I finally got myself a sponsor because I feel strong enough now.
Was that with NA?
Yeah, with NA, and I feel like I still need to keep working at my recovery and the way I am, because otherwise I just fall a bit.
I do the same. I do the exact same every day.
So I've got myself a sponsor, and last week, and she's lovely, and it was the first time that, because I went to meetings in Lancaster and then I started in Preston. And it was the first time that I'd met a woman, because I don't take challenge off women well.
I can imagine.
Because of the environment I'd been...
You've grown up around. Yeah.
And it was the first woman that I'd met in NA that I thought, yeah, I'll take challenge off you because you're just like me.
Yeah, and that's what sometimes what it takes. So we're going to carry on.
So yeah, I've got myself a sponsor, and I mean this weekend start my step work.
Brilliant. I've done the steps once. I'm doing them all over again now with a different sponsor because I had a 5-day relapse, so start all over again.
Yeah, I think for me, the relapse, I just don't want it, and it's mad because back in the day, I wouldn't have said I didn't want drugs. It's one of them though that I've learned strategies and coping mechanisms, healthier ways to do things now. And
I tell people that all the time, to replace all bad habits with new healthy habits. But I can tell you on that note, I was 15 months fucking clean and I relapsed for 5 days, and it was the horriblest moment of my life. Let me just talk to you about something here. Have you ever experienced psychosis or paranoia?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate maybe one of your worst thoughts or things that happened to you? Because people need to understand like how scary this is. And I knew you'd say yeah, but I had to ask you the question.
I got sectioned with psychosis. I had a devil on my shoulder and an angel on the other one. Yeah. So like it were like there were two parts of me, the good side and the bad side, but the bad side were always winning. The bad side were telling me to do stuff, and I went very well, and but I think the worst mental time I've ever had was I was in prison, and as you do, you go in, and the way I used to look at prison was a way to make money.
Really?
So I'd be there with my little trusty Kinder eggs, and I managed to fall asleep, stood up in the meds queue waiting for my meds. So I've gone in my room, and sat on the loo, got my Kinder eggs out, and they've come steaming in my pads. I managed to get one away, and the other one's in my hand, so I'm throwing my body on it, opened it, and I'm like ramming whatever I can down my throat, and I ended up on block, and I was on GOAD, supplying prison for 5 months, 3 weeks, and that isolation, I mean, they were really on my case because the officers thought I should have got outside charges, but because my sentence was only 6 months, and because I went not guilty, dragging it out and that's why I was on GOAD so long, because they were dragging it out so they couldn't put me back on wing. Not that they would have done anyway. But the isolation and of that, I mean, I used to take all my stuff on the morning. I'd think I'd be there with a book and that, everything out my room and that. And I'd read a book a day, and then I'd have nothing to do for a week.
I've done time on the block. I know what it's like. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's fucking...
I got done for having an authorised article for having a pet spider.
What?
Yeah, because I'd made this little house for my spider, and I wasn't supposed to have anything that wasn't authorised.
That is ridiculous.
They were just out to make my life as difficult as possible.
They caught me in Bristol with spice on me, and luckily I got away with that. I didn't have that much on me, but I was doing the same thing as what you talk about, was making money in jails as well.
Yeah, well, that's the way you look at things now, and like now one of the things that I'm looking and trying to do, because I'm a volunteer at probation, I'm on licence till September, because I went to Crown Court on the Friday and then I was in detox on the Monday. So I got 29 months suspended for 2 years, as long as I went to rehab.
Right.
Like, this is like apart from like the 9 year where I was growing weed, because I never got nicked for growing weed, this is like the longest clean I've ever lived. And it's also the first time I've ever done a licence and that, because I'd come out and I'd be on licence and it'd be send me back.
Recall, yeah.
So I'm not asked. I'm not going down to probation to talk to them. And now I'm a volunteer at probation.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what we're on Sky News for doing. And it's like, I can remember meeting people that were in recovery when I was in addiction and going, yeah, it's easy for you to say, you don't know my life.
Yeah,
and
I know them, yeah.
And like, now it's like, now I get why they were so happy and so at peace with themselves.
Yeah.
And like, I love recovery, man. I just can't think of anything worse than going back.
Yeah, I mean, I've just took on a job opportunity doing a similar thing where I'm working in a local rehabilitation centre, and my aim is to get into the prisons, the local prison area.
Yeah, that's what I want to, because I can remember, like, there has been odd times that I've met inspirational people, and one of the inspirational people I met was he'd been a London gangster, and he came in to do a talk with the NA in jail.
Yeah.
And that's when I first got like a little glinter of inspiration, that, you know, and I can remember it so well. It was called Rav.
So to me, like, I always feel like now, like, I mean, I always used to look down on people like crackheads and smackers. I used to think I was a cokehead, and I used to think I was better than them. But now I've done the NA program, I actually realise we're all the fucking same. We're all as fucking bad as each other. Now, I believe that fucking when you actually listen to other addicts, and I learn all my knowledge today off smackheads and crackheads, and I used to look and think, well, their life was fucking 10 times worse than mine. Now, if they can do it, so can I. And I think that's a mentality that the world need to understand, that they stop secluding themselves away because they're an alcoholic or because they're a stoner or whatever. Addiction's fucking addiction. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. But there's always going to be that hierarchy. It's like, I used to say, when I was in addiction, I used to say, I'm not a junkie, I'm an addict. I don't sell myself for my drugs. I graft and earn it.
Yeah, so that was all right then. Yeah.
So that were all right then. It were all right to go out and steal because I didn't sell my body. I was different, you know.
We always find ways to justify why we're using. I was exactly the same. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, and now I have like regret, and there's something that I can't change. I can't change what happened to me, the consequences of me. But sometimes I think to myself, God, my dog got end of a nose chopped off with a blooming samurai sword because of me. You know, and I have days like that. Yeah. And that was a consequence of my actions. Yeah. And I have pain and regret because I don't have kids. My dogs were my kids. Yeah. You know, and I have other things like not knowing my nieces and nephews till they were older and that, and not being there for my nieces when my sister had cancer. I went in to see my sister once, couldn't cope with it. Went to see my sister in hospital when she had cancer, couldn't cope with it. Totally and utterly disappeared for 6 months. Yeah. And I left them poor 13-year-old kids to cope with that by themselves. And I have regrets over that. But the way I look at it is, I can't change my past, right? But I can change my future. You can. And you are. And that's why I try and help. That's why I do my TikToks and stuff. And it's like just trying to get the message of hope out there. And that's my little hope. It says hope on my wrist.
My sister's got that tattoo.
My dog was called Hope. And this is the story I'm going to tell you about rehab. I was supposed to go to a different rehab on Wirral because I could take the dog. And in my brain back then it was, dog will get me kicked out before I get kicked out because she's so dog aggressive. So that was my scapegoat to get out of rehab. I've done what Judge said, but I got kicked out over dog. And then she got a really aggressive cancer, and she had to be put down like within 7 weeks because she got this tumour. And she got put down on the 28th of February 2023. And I'd lost Evo, I'd lost my other dog Tyson, and I'd lost Hope all within 6 months. Bloody hell. And I proper spiralled, like I said, but Tommy, my mate Tommy, who is now a volunteer at Forward Leeds, he said to me, go look at the rehab where I said, in my case manager, in my head, now you haven't got a dog, why don't you go look at Little Dale and that? It's in middle of nowhere, because I used to have horses and that when I was younger, and my dad used to have a farm, I used to love it. And they said, there's a farm there, you can volunteer on farm. So I went, all right, then I'll go look. Now, I was that terrified, I wouldn't go in. But then I walked up to the back door, and there was a stone, and it said Hope. Now, this is on the 6th of March, bearing in mind, I'd only lost Hope on the 28th of February. And I just turned around and went, I'm coming here. I didn't even go in. Before I even went in, just because of that stone that said Hope, because it was my Hope's name, and I took that as a sign from the universe. And I'm so glad I did.
Oh, good for you. Well, I'm going to have to start tying things up now, so I'm going to ask you a few questions to close it, yeah? So, do you think that from being younger, to remember going back to like your childhood and stuff like that, do you believe that, I mean, what was the ladder for you? Did you presumably you didn't just first try crack and heroin. Presumably you tried...
Oh, no.
You tried substances before that. Can you sort of tell me how that sort of panned out? Like from even, like, remember that cigarettes and alcohol are a drug as well. Can you sort of Give me an insight into that.
Well, I must have smoked since we were about 10.
Yeah.
I used to pinch my mum's fags, go smoking behind the house.
I know that one.
Yeah. And then, really, I smoked weed first. Then I started messing with speed and LSD. And then I went on to the ecstasy. And then Dave got me on heroin. And this is how naive I was. He used to smoke it in front of his mum, telling his mum it was cannabis oil. So when I actually first started, I thought I was smoking cannabis oil on foil.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, I used to say, you wanting to get up and go off, and I'd be wanting a bath and do my hair and all that. And then after a week, I went, I've got flu, I'm dying. He went, come with me. And I went, no, I want to stay in bed. He went, come with me. And I can remember to this day, you remember in the Spencer's Place where petrol station is, there used to be a pub there called Prince Albert. And we sat there in the car, and he went, have some of this. And I went, I don't want none, I don't feel well, I've got flu. He went, have some of this, it'll make you feel better. I started having some, and I started feeling better, and I was like, and I looked at him, and I went, this ain't cannabis, is it? And he just went, you won't leave me now, will you, bitch?
Yeah, stitched you right up.
Yeah, so that was my introduction to heroin. Then, of course, after heroin came crack. And when I first started taking crack, I didn't like it because I was expecting a buzz like ecstasy.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get the buzz of it all.
Nah.
But then gradually crack became my go-to.
So thank you for explaining that. It's just obviously just demonstrates the ladder, and I genuinely believe that there is a ladder effect. A lot of people don't disagree, but there is definitely a path how things work up. I don't know, but like I say, I don't know many people that have just started on heroin, crack, coke that have never tried experimenting in alcohol, weed prior to that. So my idea to society is to keep the fuck away from the weed and the alcohol if possible.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll leave it at that, and don't go any higher if possible. So do you think that obviously it's evident to me that today life is something that you probably only ever dreamed of, and you're actually living it now? And I can imagine, yeah. I mean, I know firsthand how that feels. I don't know how your life feels. I know how mine feels, because I used to go to sleep on a night, cry my eyes out, wake up, cry my eyes out, didn't want to be here. Tried multiple times to try and take my own life, and, et cetera, et cetera. And actually now I'm just so glad that I'm here. And, it's crazy. And we've talked about some things, you and I, through this podcast about, ways we act and way we recognise things. And it's like we're reborn again. Do you agree?
Yeah, honestly, sometimes, when I was on Sky News and that, I got in bed that night and I started laughing to myself, thinking,
yeah.
Usually you put me on news for something bad, stabbing, being shot at and that, and here I am, I've been on Sky News doing something good.
Yeah, I know that feeling. It's remarkable. So just one last thing before we tie this up, and I'm really, really grateful for you coming on today. These kind of things help people so much. I've got a very wide audience, and I'm sure that this one's going to go mad. So can I just ask you what you feel like, sort of like a closing statement, and what you would recommend to younger generation, to other addicts struggling, to people sat there suffering in silence, just to generalise what you think to help society?
I would say never even pick up a joint.
Yeah, I would.
Beware of alcohol, because alcohol's just another drug. And if you are an addict in recovery, don't get complacent thinking you can have that one drink, because you'll just replace one thing with another. From what I've seen in recovery, a lot of people, they get themselves clean and they pick up a drink.
Yeah.
It's just like picking up another substance. But kids just say no.
Yeah.
Because it's so no. True.
Fucking hell. I do agree with you, and it is fucking so difficult though, it's like it's easier now to order a fucking gram of Coke than it is a fucking pizza. It's quicker as well.
Yeah.
It literally is. Do you know what I mean? How long is Domino's going to take? 40 minutes to deliver a pizza. I could have had fucking 3 halves dropped off in that fucking time, man. They could have gone and come back, gone and come back, gone and come back. And it's just, unfortunately, you know, but I just think, like, these kind of stories for you and I to share our experiences, talking about the dark side of it, because it might be glorified in the media and all this, but really and truly, it's fucking shit and it's hell, you know? We live a life of fucking misery.
It is, and I didn't care whether I lived or died.
Same.
Preferably the other one a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And now I want to live, but obviously I'm living the consequences of my addiction on my body. And it's my own fault.
Yeah.
It's my own fault. But for women out there, I think a lot of women in addiction are influenced by men.
Right.
And I do think men with women, but equally it works both ways, I suppose. But because of my experience, I know, like, what happened to me.
Yeah. And
men had a lot to do with my addiction, and most of the girls, 95%, not saying girls shouldn't take accountability, but 95% of the girls that I've spoken to, men have had an influence on their addiction. Right. But I suppose if you ask a man, he'd probably say women have on theirs. Do you know what I mean?
No comment.
But, and it's hard when you're in recovery, because in addiction, you've got a stigma for being in addiction. In recovery, you've got a stigma for being in recovery because you're next addict.
Yeah.
And I've had real trouble. Like, the reason why I've had to come to supported housing in Preston was I couldn't get anywhere to live in Lancaster.
Right.
Because I had this stigma of the consequences of my actions of never having a job.
Yeah. And
not having no credit history. Didn't have anybody that could say a good thing about me.
Oh, bless you. You know, well, you do now.
Do not ask my ex-landlords anything, you know. How many times armed police came, what door went through, what windows went through, you know.
Yeah.
Or they found a growing blooming cellar, you know. I couldn't ask a landlord for a reference.
Yeah, right. How funny.
Yeah, and that's what I found, and that's why I've ended up coming to another supported housing, because I just couldn't find anywhere to live.
So just remind me, how many months clean are you?
22.
How many years was you in active addiction?
To heroin and crack, 32.
32 years in addiction and 22 months clean, did you say?
Yeah.
There you go, people.
Longest ever in my life.
And this is why people should never, ever give up. People should always live with hope.
Oh, definitely.
Anybody can do it, can't they? If me and you can do it, anybody can, right or wrong.
That's why I try and I do these talks, and I try and go talk to people, because if I can do it after 32 years of not knowing any difference in my not knowing the difference as an adult, my whole adult life I was an addict. And like now it's like being reborn. It's a beautiful thing. It's like, wow. And sometimes I just think, wow, this is good.
Well done, Charlie. I mean, I don't know you, but I'm proud of you, and it's because I know how fucking challenging and hard it is, man, and it's life changing, and it's evident to me that you've changed your life, and I wish you the best of luck going forward. So I'm just going to end this here. I'll stay on and talk to you, but fucking yeah. So guys, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, please click subscribe. I'll leave some links below in the box for help and support to start your journey. And as always, pack it in.